When Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti takes the stage on Tuesday, I hope he sends a very clear message.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Texas should cruise to 10 wins this year with Arch Manning in charge at quarterback. Clemson might be this year's Ohio State. That's all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So, Big Ten Media Days this week. I'll be down there in Las Vegas. Looking forward to all of that, and I hope Tony Petitti is like a pitcher on the mound in baseball who is, of course, trying to get the batter out in a way that he envisions in his head. And, you know, I'm just a fan in the stands watching and hoping that he's able to get the guy out. Because right now, the bases are loaded. There's 2 outs, but you got 2 strikes on the guy. Or at least that's what I'm going with here. Now, Petitti is going to do the equivalent of an oopsie-daisies backdoor slider that he meant to throw down in a way, but might actually hook around, land on the inside corner, and catch a righty looking for strike 3. The reason I phrase this discussion in this manner to begin this week of shows is because Petitti said recently that he doesn't want to go to a 16-team playoff unless the SEC goes to 9 conference games. Now, I, as my everydayers know, am opposed to college football playoff expansion for many reasons. Frankly, though, I don't really care how we get to that point. I just want the batter to strike out. I don't want to risk putting the ball in play because I don't trust the defense behind the pitcher on the mound. Just strike him out. I don't care if you hang a slider and he whiffs at it. Just get him out. That's the way I look at this playoff expansion. I don't care how you get to the idea of we should just stay with 12 teams and 5 plus 7 with the 5 highest ranked conference champions. I don't care how you get there. I do care, but I don't even care if it doesn't last forever. Can you make it last a little bit longer? Because I might be seen as a bit of a clinger to the past when the regular season meant everything in college football, and it still means a lot. And it's still great. I can't wait for it to get here. I mean, we're in record prediction season here on the show. It's my favorite time of year that isn't the season. I love it more than the coaching carousel, more than realignment talk, more than recruiting port. I love record prediction season, not just because the only reactions I get from people are, oh my gosh, you are so smart. You see that my team is great. Or, oh my gosh, you're such a buffoon. How could you possibly even have a show for thinking my team is going to have this record that they then go out and have in the season? So I look at this playoff expansion situation and say, I don't want them to get there. I want them to keep it at a 12-team playoff. And that's not what the SEC wants, of course. But Greg Sankey said at SEC Media Days last week, you know, if we can't find a way to expand the playoff, then we can just stay at 12. Great. Keep the playoff as small as possible for as long as you can, because there is an inevitable feeling about playoff expansion, as I've said for a long time. Eventually, I don't know when exactly, it's hard to tell. Eventually, I'm sure we'll have a 24-team playoff, because they'll look at the SEC, they being playoff expansion people and people who want to make more money and such, they'll look at the FCS and say, look, the FCS does 24 teams. We should do that. And that's a horrible way to think, but somebody's going to think that way anyway. USC and Rutgers are in the same conference, after all. And I do have to give a nod to Dan Wetzel over at ESPN, who had a good line writing in a piece about this. He said, quote, "It's been dubbed the, quote, 4-4-2-2-1-3 because college athletic leaders love ridiculous parlances almost as much as they love money," end quote. Good line. Good line. I like that line. That's a good one, Dan. I see it the same way. So the ridiculousness of thinking we need to already go to a 16-team playoff, I don't agree with either. In addition to my generalized and consistent opposition to expanding the playoff further, which minimizes a lot of the regular season games that we hold dear. And it does give importance to games that now can have playoff implications being played amongst teams we all know either don't deserve or are not of the national championship caliber required to actually make any noise. But I digress and want to get back to the second point. The ridiculousness of actually changing the playoff for 2026 is pretty crazy because we don't actually have a lot of data on the 12-team playoff. You've got 1 year with a 12-team playoff. And by the way, they just changed the format. They changed the seeding, not the number of teams. And I was supportive because I thought it was always ridiculous going into it. It, of course, was. And everybody realized that after the fact. Who could have foreseen? Anyway, we realized as a sport, hey, maybe we should seed this better and change the seeding structure. Well, those sorts of tweaks and adjustments, I think, are normal. There's nothing normal or inherently good or right about going out there and saying, you know what, let's expand the playoff again. How do you even know it needs to be expanded? The SEC didn't get the outcome they wanted a season ago. Part of the reason I would like to see the playoff continue in this particular format, because no, it's not. It's clearly based on the first year, not just a giveaway to SEC teams who at 9-3 did not get in just because they're in the almighty SEC. They looked at Ole Miss and said, I'm sorry you lost to Kentucky. Alabama, I'm sorry you lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, who were only bowl teams because they beat you. That's not getting the job done. So to look at, 1 year in one format, make a good tweak, and then think after 1 year we need to expand again. Do you even know? How can you have gathered enough data? The people making this decision, unless you're just making it for money, which they probably are, but from a football standpoint, I'd like to hear somebody make the argument how you can say even 2 years with one particular playoff format is enough. We had the BCS from late 90s to 2013. We went well over a decade. We went with a decade of the 4-team playoff before we decided, playoff field should probably expand. Why is 2 years going to be enough? And let's see how it plays out this year with the straight seeding. I think it's going to be better. It'll be a better version of the 12-team playoff. But how can you possibly know after just 1 or 2 years? I liked the initial data point I mentioned about the SEC teams getting left out at 9-3. I don't know that it's going to be that way forever. We've only seen the 12-team playoff one time. Can we play it out for a few more years at the very least? Give it a real chance to work out all of its kinks. We've already gotten one of those kinks out. Who's to say there won't be more? Who's to say there won't be small modifications or things you could make without wholesale changes to the number of teams that get into the playoff? You don't know until you allow those things to play out. So I hope Petitti takes the stage this week, and I'm sure he will get asked. If somebody else doesn't ask, I certainly will, about playoff expansion, and I hope he triples down. And you know what? Throw an accidental backdoor slider, my man. I don't care how you're getting to that point of not expanding to 16 teams. Just strike the guy out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. Record prediction season rocks. I don't know how else to describe it. It is genuinely so much fun. It's like I take the last 6 months of doing shows and I pack it into one segment. Roughly speaking. Texas, 10 wins, I'm all aboard. First, this episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Do you have that one financial goal that you want to reach? Maybe it's amount to have in your savings. Maybe you want to have enough to buy a house or a new apartment or whatever it may be. Whatever that goal is, Monarch Money can help you get there. So go check them out. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's a pretty good deal. monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Check them out at monarchmoney.com. Been a good week to be a Texas Longhorn fan. Some recruiting wins of the high-profile variety. The season's right around the corner. Arch Manning. Yeah, see, I just had to say his name, and Texas fans probably got excited. What are you going to say? I don't think I really have to say anything else. You're probably excited because we're one day closer every day that passes by to the Arch Manning era at Texas. Long awaited, might I add. So the Longhorns have been rolling, and don't for a second pretend that Texas and Oklahoma got an equally fair shake coming into the SEC. They didn't. Texas has taken advantage of that in their first year so far. I think they're going to again this year. The schedule difference between Texas and Oklahoma is it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Oklahoma's schedule among the toughest in college football. I believe ESPN's strength of schedule metrics have it as the second hardest schedule in the country behind Florida. Like, those are in the top two. Texas not in that sort of range. Now, they do have one of the best games in all of college football's non-conference slate this year in week 1. And this is a round of applause. I ripped Indiana on Friday. I rip into late season SEC cupcakes. I do not care for schools who will not play quality non-conference games. I don't like it. I don't think schools should control their non-conference scheduling. I will continue to lobby for that until it changes in college football. But I'm applauding. Applauding is the word. Texas and Ohio State, because they're playing week 1 at the Horseshoe, college football playoff semifinal rematch. I mean, come on, man. This is going to be big time stuff. I think Texas is winning that football game. I do. You got two quarterbacks I don't know a ton about. It's probably Julian Sayin at Ohio State. Probably. I know it's Arch Manning at Texas. Ohio State lost a lot from last year. I think they're going to be a good team. I think there's some sneaky value on Ohio State, who I'm going to talk about more later on today's show when I discuss Clemson. There is sneaky value on Ohio State under 10.5 wins. Texas's preseason win total, according to our friends at FanDuel, is 9.5. I like the over. I really like the over because Texas early in there. Remember, how many people would have picked them? I certainly didn't. To go into Alabama and win a couple of years ago. Arch Manning is not a veteran quarterback necessarily. I've seen more of him than Julian Sayin. He's started and finished more games, I don't care who it's against, than Julian Sayin has. And Sayin's first game, at least he's at home, but he's going to have to go against this Texas defense with Colin Simmons breathing down his neck all the time and Anthony Hill Jr. coming after him. That's not a spot I'd want to be in. I'd feel better if Ohio State had one of their weaker opponents as a tune-up game, but they don't. This is game 1, and Ryan Day against Steve Sarkisian. This is just going to be fun. This has just got all the making. Texas, Ohio State, Day, Sark, Arch, 5-star, and Julian Sayin. Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs will be on the field. It's going to be awesome. I think Texas finds a way to win this game. I'm taking Texas to win that one. And until I'm presented with some seriously strong evidence to the contrary, just change my opinion in fall camp, I don't think that is going to change. So just off the top, I think Texas goes 11-1. I can see 10-2. I really can't see lower than 10-2. I like Texas. I'm one of the people who, you hear, I'm sure plenty of pundits, commentators, content creators, whoever saying, oh, Texas this, Texas that. Yeah, I'm kind of one of those Texas this, Texas that sort of guys. So I think they win at Ohio State. Then I kind of feel for Texas fans because they don't actually get a home game that's worth watching until Vanderbilt, which is way later in the schedule. Because the next 3 home games for Texas are San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston. I mean, it's not what I would like for the rest of Texas's games to be, but when you have Ohio State on there, okay, I suppose that's allowed. Those games are at home. They're going to win them all. Won't be close. Okay, whatever. Then they go at Florida. Now, this is going to be a pretty popular upset pick. I, again, am going to trust Texas here. Why? I like Sark more than I like Billy Napier. I have Texas rated higher in my preseason rankings than I do Florida, and I don't think the home field advantage for the Gators, which didn't prove to be a whole heck of a lot last year in a couple early season big games. This one's closer to the middle of the season, of course. I do not think, by the way, please don't take that as a shot at the Swamp. Take that as a shot at Billy Napier, because I've taken my fair share of shots at him. I'm going to keep doing it. I don't think he's very good. I think Sark is better. I do like Florida. I picked Florida to go 5-7 last year. I will not do that again this year because I love me some DJ Lagway. I really do. Give me Texas to win that game in the Swamp. And then Red River. So this will, and this is what I mean about Texas' schedule, because then their next 2 games are on the road. At Kentucky, at Mississippi State. They're going to win those 2 games. They'll beat Vanderbilt at home. They'll have their only loss of the season at Georgia, I think, before they beat Arkansas, and then Texas A&M last week of the year. The best thing realignment has come up with, I quip all the time, the best thing capitalism has come up with is Costco. I mean, come on, like Costco. Incredible. I love Costco. Costco's great. So I don't think realignment has come up with a better product that we didn't have before than Texas A&M. You can also argue that realignment cost us that matchup, which it did. Texas A&M used to be in the Big 12. They left to go to the SEC. Well, at least it's back. And last year, the environment delivered. And in Austin, the environment's going to deliver again. That is so far and away the best true home game. Of course, Red River's a neutral site, the most unique environment in all of college football, and a great one at that. Texas A&M better be a game worth the wait for Texas fans. There's just not a great slate of home games this year. If I were a season ticket holder in the Austin, Texas area, I'd be a little disappointed. UTEP, San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Texas A&M. Pretty weak, but also reflective of what I said earlier. Texas's schedule, incredibly favorable. That might change starting next year when the schedules start to cycle around. At least it should. Oklahoma should be easier. Texas's should be tougher. Because Oklahoma, last year and this year, much tougher in their first 2 years in the SEC. Texas, though, I mean, I've got Kentucky, Mississippi State, power raters, bottom 3 teams. Florida is, I think, good. Arkansas, I don't know what Sam Pittman's doing. Texas A&M, good, but I like Texas at home there. They got it done on the road last year, of course, with Quinn Ewers, and that'll be game 12 for Arch Manning, presuming he stays healthy. So I like Texas to go 11-1. I think their one loss will come at Georgia. I watched Georgia beat them in close games last year. It's not crazy to think that Texas could find a way to win those games. I'm just pretty hesitant, call me crazy, to pick anybody to go into Athens and win. I know, hot take artist over here. That's what they call me. That's why I was hired to this wonderful network, to be a hot take artist and say things like, I'm never usually going to pick anyone to go into Athens and win. Craziness, I know. Clemson, Ohio State, learn the similarities. Clemson and Ohio State, going into last year and this year respectively, have a number of things in common. Number one, veteran coach, who we know can win big games and has done so many times before. Number two, veteran quarterback. Last year, Will Howard wasn't an Ohio State veteran. He was, however, a college football veteran who had won a conference championship. Oh, Cade Klubnik did it last year. That's another similarity. Number three, high level of returning production with NFL talent on both sides of the ball. Yep, you check that particular mark. And trait number four, We'll see if it plays out this way. I'm not making my official prediction here. I'm just saying it can happen. They could both have 10-2 regular seasons and wind up winning the national championship. So here's something I genuinely hope. I talk about schedules a lot on this show because I see it outside of realignment, which is, settled down-ish roughly for the time being. I see it as probably the biggest issue in college football. It makes no sense. It's crazy, makes the product worse. There are all sorts of issues that stem from the way we do scheduling in college football. It's never made sense, and it won't until they just, let me do it as the schedulings are. My services are available anytime. We can discuss a fee. It would be pretty sizable, but I think fair. It'd be fair. I wouldn't be in it for the money. I just want to be fairly compensated for my time. So Clemson's preseason win total is 9.5. And I'm not somebody that looks at high win totals and says, ooh, Vegas thinks they're going to be a good team. I think they're going to be a good team. They're automatically going over their win total. I promise it's not always the case. It's just the case on today's show. I like Clemson over 9.5. They could go 10-2 and win the national championship. Now, what I hope, even though they play in the ACC, which is viewed as the third or fourth best conference in college football, is that if they go 10-2, but don't make the ACC title game, I really hope that they get into the playoff without question. Do you understand that Clemson starts and ends with two teams I have as preseason top 5 SEC programs going into this year? Yeah, LSU is my number 4. South Carolina is my number 5. Those are the bookends of Clemson's schedule. Not to mention, there's no Miami on this slate. There is, however, Georgia Tech and Louisville both on the road. The Clemson Tigers have to be absolute positive road warriors this year if they want to get back to the college football playoff. Just get back to it. I don't think the committee will let them in at 9-3. Heck, I don't even know if I would want them in at 9-3. I have really high hopes for Clemson. I'm not someone who thinks Dabo Swinney can't coach anymore. They're going into their third straight year having the same head coach, quarterback, and offensive coordinator. And I got to tell you, off the top of my head, I don't know that exists in another Power 4 program in college football. I really don't. Please name it if I'm missing it. I don't believe it exists. So to have that unique trio, in addition to a team that won the ACC last year in a thriller over SMU, was competitive with Texas on the road. They lost by 14. If you watched it, though, like Boise State and Penn State in their quarterfinal game, the final score was not indicative of how close and competitive the game actually was. Clemson should be a really, really good football team this year. I mean, really good. And if they're not, we'll ask questions as to why, and they might just all circle back to the head coach is not as good as he used to. We might need to reassess whether he can get back to the top in college football. Doesn't mean he should be fired. Just means you might need to reassess. So I am putting out a scenario here in which Clemson misses the ACC title game, but and it's just a possibility because you never know how those crazy tiebreakers go. They miss the ACC title game, but they could still go out and win the national championship. Ohio State went 10-2, missed the Big Ten championship game, got into the playoff. The rest is history. So I think Clemson finishes at 10-2. There are a lot of different iterations of how they could wind up at 10-2. But I think the only reason that Clemson's win total is not 10.5, which is the highest that is given to any team in college football going into a season. I don't know that FanDuel's given out 11.5 before. The only reason is the schedule is pretty darn brutal. You open with LSU at home. I do think they will win that game. I'm going to make Brian Kelly prove me wrong before I pick him to win a week 1 game. He has not had a stellar record in such instances. Florida State, USC hasn't gone well. It's in Clemson, so I'm taking the Tigers at home. Then they play Troy. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you all the games that I didn't have to think about when picking Clemson's schedule here. Syracuse at home, North Carolina on the road, Boston College on the road, SMU at home. I thought about SMU a little, but at home, no, I'll take Clemson. Duke at home, Florida State at home, Furman at home. Okay, I didn't have to think that hard about those. Like, no, Clemson should win those games. The Tigers' season will be defined by the following games. Game 12 at South Carolina. The aforementioned Game 1 against LSU. Game 3 at Georgia Tech. And Game 10 at Louisville. And, sometimes I make a decision, I prep a segment, I have an idea, and then as I start saying it out loud, I go, no, I don't like that. Don't think I like that at all. So I'm going to call a small audible here. I'm going to say Clemson finds a way to win their third game at Georgia Tech. I had that as an upset loss. I think their loss is going to be at Louisville. I'm going to give South Carolina the win week 12. Here's my thinking. And again, kid you not, I am making these changes in real time because sometimes they sound different when I say them than they do in my head. South Carolina went into Clemson last year and won. That's not the only reason that I think South Carolina can win that game. It's a coin flip. It's a number of coin flips. But Dabo Swinney has got some level of pressure. At least I hope that he knows that he's got some level of pressure. I don't think, not that having a home playoff game is ever a bad thing. If Clemson's a one-loss ACC team, and they wind up going to or missing the conference championship game because of tiebreakers and they host a playoff game, I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. But what I come back to time and again with Clemson is they've got the roster to dominate, but are they going to dominate this schedule the way they're capable of? I don't think so. I think their ceiling's actually 11-1. Just because the schedule is so hard. If you took to have to go to Georgia Tech, who's my preseason number 4 team in the ACC, to Louisville, who's my preseason number 3, and to South Carolina, if you go 2-1 in those games, you're doing phenomenally well. You're doing great, sweetie. That would be really, really good football. But between Louisville and Georgia Tech, I think Clemson will get tripped up one time. And if that sounds crazy to you, I've watched Clemson teams that have been really good go to Syracuse and lose before. Things can get crazy over there. So I think a split of the tough ACC road games and a split of the SEC games, that sounds like the most likely scenario to me. Don't sleep on that Georgia Tech game. It is one of the most under-the-radar conference matchups early in the season. It is game 3 for the Clemson Tigers, and I'm excited. I'm excited. Brent Key and the boys, he's going to run the ball, as he likes to say. I don't know if that was a good Brent Key impression. We're going to call it good enough for today. And that is how we wrap today's show, with an in-the-moment alteration. Can I do that? Yes, because this is my show. But I appreciate you watching. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.